Imagine waking up to the soft scrape of something unfamiliar against your bedside table, blinking into morning light and finding a small, impossible thing sitting where it could not have been. An icicle made of glass that wasn't there the night before, a page torn from a book you've never read, a wilted sunflower whose petals smell faintly of salt and distant rain. At first you chalk it up to a prank, a trick of memory, or maybe the half-asleep habit of misplacing things. But then your roommate finds a pocket watch that ticks in a rhythm that matches a song they only hear in dreams. Your neighbor discovers a key carved from bone that exactly fits a lock on a chest they have never owned. And before you know it, whole cities are waking up to dream things scattered across pillows, porches, subway seats, and rooftops. The phenomenon would start like a whisper. People posting blurry photos, late-night feeds filling with incredulous captions. But it would grow fast because dreams are private, intimate places, and suddenly their privacy is leaking into the waking world. Psychologists would be swamped, poets would swoon, and religious leaders would find new metaphors to interpret. The scientific community would sprint to keep up. Neuroscientists would dig into REM sleep, proposing that dreams aren't merely electrical storms in the brain but pointers to some deeper field of reality. An interface where imagination occasionally solidifies into matter. Physicists might dust off fringe theories about information and reality, suggesting that under certain conditions the brain's patterns could resonate with the substrate of the universe, collapsing probabilities not just in thought but into physical formation. Chemists would analyze the strange objects, some ordinary, some made of materials that don't match any known element, and their labs would glow with the blue light of curiosity and dread. The findings would be maddeningly inconsistent. Sometimes dream objects degrade in sunlight, sometimes they persist for years. Sometimes they dissolve if described aloud, other times they reproducibly replicate the sensory logic of the dream that birthed them. That inconsistency would be the thing that terrifies people the most. Not that dreams could manifest, but that they did so with no predictable rules. On a personal level, this would be intoxicating and ruinous in equal measure. For some, dream things would be miracles. An old photograph of a departed grandparent whose laughter you can still hear when you hold it. A tiny chair from a childhood treehouse you thought had been forgotten. For others, dreams would become a hazard. Nightmares leaving behind shards of something like ice that burn the skin, or faintly oily footprints leading nowhere, or a child's toy that hums at night and keeps the house awake. Sleep would become an act of creation and risk. Lovers might leave each other with instructions not to dream of certain places, while artists would deliberately cultivate nocturnal fantasies in hopes of producing one-of-a-kind sculptures or melodies that arrive fully formed at dawn. Black markets would flourish, people trading dream maps, offering dream sessions for hire, selling instructions on how to coax the right kind of object from slumber. Lawsuits would pile up. Did that dream key grant access to someone's bank vault? Who owns a thing that appears in your room but originates in your mind? Intellectual property would get weird fast. Cities would adapt in strange and beautiful ways. Imagine museums dedicated to dream objects, rooms curated by the kind of surreal logic that makes René Magritte look tidy, while other neighborhoods craft ordinances about disposing of potentially hazardous nocturnal artifacts. Religious and spiritual movements would proliferate, some teaching techniques to summon benevolent dream things for healing, others warning that the bleeding of dreams into reality is a test, or a symptom of something older, a thinning between worlds. Economies might shift as craftsmen learn to replicate desirable dream things, blending artisan skill with the unpredictability of human sleep. Schools might offer elective classes in lucid dreaming, not as a parlor trick, but as vocational training. Learn to dream a better chair, a safer toy, a melody that will make you money. The social fabric would also fray and tighten in new ways. Intimacy would be redefined. Do you want your partner's dreams materializing in your shared apartment? Privacy would feel violated in a way cameras never managed, because the things left behind would carry the texture of intimacy. Embroidered scraps of unfinished sentences, half-written love letters that smell of someone else's night, maps with routes only visible when you tilt them to the moon. Communities might form around shared dream objects, like neighborhoods bonded by a cluster of fingerprints that glow faintly with dream residue. Or fear could push people into isolation, into meticulously blank rooms padded against manifestation, where dreamers sleep in state-of-the-art silence chambers in hopes of keeping their subconscious from leaving traces. And then there's the global imagination, the way culture itself would rearrange. Literature and film would explode with new genres. Documentary fiction hybrids cataloging the most curious dream miracles. Political satires where nations claim the dream objects of rival leaders as acts of espionage. Musicals that stage the spontaneous genesis of entire sets at curtain rise. Scientists would worry about feedback loops. If society begins to dream about certain objects because those objects have become culturally prominent, do those dreams produce more of the object, amplifying trends in a runaway cascade? Could markets be manipulated via mass suggestion? Corporations buying ad space that subliminally steers collective dreams into manufacturing profitable artifacts overnight? The ethical questions would pile up like the objects themselves. Worst of all, perhaps, would be the question of intent. Dreams are messy. Sometimes they're cathartic, sometimes monstrous. If nightmares can leave behind harmful debris, and if some dreamers, conscious or not, manifest things that harm others, then how do we judge responsibility? Criminal law would strain to adapt. Is it manslaughter if an object born of a dream kills someone? Are children who can't help summoning dangerous items culpable? Conversely, there would be acts of quiet wonder. Strangers finding dream gifts on their stoops that change their lives. A compass that always points to a lost thing. A seed that grows overnight into a non-native plant that feeds a neighborhood. Humanity would find, as it tends to, ways to make even this wild new reality meaningful. Rituals would emerge for offering back dream things that carry painful memories, and festivals would celebrate the most beautiful of these nocturnal gifts. In the end, the world would have to learn a new grammar of care. We'd have to look at sleep not as a passive retreat but as a generative space with consequences. We'd be forced to reckon with the porousness between what we imagine and what we make, between the private theater of the mind and the public stage of the street. Maybe some would see it as a miraculous expansion, proof that human creativity literally reshapes the world, while others would find it an existential horror, a sign that the boundaries that once protected us are thinning. And every night when you close your eyes, you would carry the distant, thrilling, terrifying thought that somewhere beyond the eyelid, your dream might be building a thing just for you, and that when morning comes, you might open your hands and find proof that the line between sleep and waking is at last porous enough to let wonder slip through.